Alright, so to continue on with ellipses, I'm looking at this example and it's giving you an ellipse and it's asking you to identify the center, the vertices, and the foci. So I can glance at my actual equation and I can determine that my major axis is going to be on my x-axis because I have 25 and 9 in the denominator and 25 is the largest, so that goes with that x piece. So that means that my a value is going to come from the square root of 25 and is going to give me 5. My b value is going to come from the square root of 9, which is going to be 3. So now what we need to find is we need to actually find that c value. And we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem for that, but just to kind of clarify what that c value means. So I have graphed, if you look, so I have a few of them turned on and off to make it easier as I go through the video. But the first one I have is in red. I should be able to see that my center is in the middle at -3, -4. And as we go to highlights and pieces, I have my a distance is my major axis, or my semi-major. So this distance here is A. I also have the distance for B, which is going to be my semi-minor. That's going to be 3. And then I'm going to look for that C value. So the C value, remember when we talked about it before, is actually going to be that right triangle that I make. It's going to be on the major axis always, and it's going to be my a squared equals b squared plus c squared. So we're actually going to go back to my original piece that we were working on, or my original example. Okay. And given that example, we're going to do a squared equals b squared plus c squared. So my b squared is going to be 3 squared. I have 5 squared plus c squared. So it's going to be 25 minus 9, which is going to be 16. So I found that my c is equal to 4. So since my c is equal to 4, that means that there is a length from my center to my foci of 4 units. Alright, so I'm actually going to go back to my graph, and when I originally had this, we had our major length here, which is our length of A. We had our minor length, which is my length of B, and what we just found was the length of C. So C was that distance from the center to the actual foci. So from there, we kind of talked about the fact that this length right here is what actually made that right triangle, and that is the length of A itself from the from the minor vertices to the foci point. So we're just going to go back through and then we're going to find those pieces. And sorry y'all, I'm having to retype all my pieces here, going back and forth. Alright, so looking at this, because I have a center, my center is located at -3, -4. And knowing that my center is located at -3, -4, and this is my major, that tells me that I can find my vertices and I can find my foci by adding my values to it. So for this particular situation, for my vertices, for my center, this looks like it's talking about the majors, but we'll kind of see and see if it's talking about the minors. We'll check our answers. But if we're talking about the major axis is going to have a length of 5. So to that value, we're going to plus and minus 5 there, which is going to be your plus or minus A, in order to get the two foci. So if I add those together, I have negative 3 plus 5 is going to give me negative 2, 4, or negative 2, negative 4. And if I do negative 3 minus 5, that's going to give me negative 8, negative 4. All right, so from there, I should be able to see that we do have a couple of those. And I did make a mistake. And I can see that right here, that should have been positive 2 because that's negative 3 plus 5. So I can go ahead and get rid of C and D. So then the foci. The foci is the point from the center to that 4 units that we found with the C value. So with that, again, I can take my center. Remember, the foci are always on the major axis. And we're going to take the foci. And since my X is my major, instead of adding my A this time, I'm now going to plus or minus my C value. Okay, so I'm going to plus or minus my C value. My C value here is going to be plus or minus 4. All right, so leaving this example, negative 3 plus 4 is going to give me 1, negative 4. And negative 3 minus 4 is going to give me negative 7, negative 4. All right, so my correct answer is going to be B. And again, I can look at it graphically. I can go back to my situation. I can see that my foci in this particular problem, we said is going to be at 1, negative 4. And the other one was at negative 7, negative 4. And I can still see those two foci. Okay? All right, so going on to example number 4. So number 4 says the major axis has a length of 18 and the minor axis has a length of 6. So if it's major, that means that my major axis has a length of 18. Well, the whole axis is 18. So to find the semi-major, remember, is that A value. So that A value is actually going to be 18 divided by 2, which is going to be 9. And then my semi-minor is going to be my B value, and that's going to be 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So my A value, so my A squared is going to be 81, and my B squared is going to be 9. Now, the other thing that it told me in the problem is that my major is my vertical, so that means that my major has to be on my y-axis. And it told me my minor is my, it actually didn't say, but if the other one's vertical, then this last one has to be horizontal. All right, so I know given these pieces, so I have x squared over 9 plus y squared over 81, because my y is my major, equals 1, making the correct answer C. All right, so the next one. So the next one, it says an ellipse with a foci at 1, 2, and 7, 2 has a major length of 10. So I have a major axis length. So I want to find my semi-major, which is going to be my A. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. And I'm just going to kind of do a quick drawing over here. So I have foci at 1, 2. And let's see if I can get those points in there. And then I have another one at 7, 2. So if my foci are obviously going to be symmetrical horizontally, so that means that my major has to be on my x-axis because my foci has to be on my major axis itself. So given that, I should be able to find the center as well. And the reason I'm going to be able to find the center because it's going to be in the middle of my two foci. So if I'm looking at my problem, so I'm at between 1 and 7. So if I'm between 1 and 7, that's going to land me at 4, 2. So my center is at 4, 2. So I know that I have an A value of 5. I don't know my B value, but I know my C value is a length. So from the center to my foci is going to be a length of 4. So what we really need to find is my B value. And remember, we know that my major A squared plus my B squared plus C squared. So this is going to be 5 squared equals B squared plus 4 squared. So 5 squared is 25 minus 4 squared is going to give me 9. So the square root of 9, so my B is going to be 3. So that means I have a major length of 3. So there's my other two. So excuse me, my minor length of 3. So my major is 5. And then go up 3 and down 3. All right, and not very pretty, but there is my ellipse. So this is going to be x minus 4 squared. This is going to be y minus 2 squared equals 1. Now we just got to figure out the bottom part. So given the bottom part, we know that the major is on the x, so my major is going to be 25 because 5 squared is 25. My minor is 3, and that's going to be 9. So my x should be minus 4, and my y should be minus 2, so my correct answer is B. All right, and my last one. When we talk about eccentricity of an ellipse, we take that C value and we divide it by my A value. So the length from the center to the foci divided by the semi-major in that problem. So when I'm looking at this example, it gives it to me in general form. So looking at the general form, I really need to kind of go in and look at it graphically. And then once I look at it graphically, then I can figure out some pieces. All right, so I'm going to go in here and delete that information. And I'm going to add in my new equation. All right, so there's my ellipse. So I need to kind of know what my major and my minor are. And if I know my major and my minor, then I can definitely find my length from my center to my foci. So from here, I see my center is at 4, -8. So I'm going to go back, and my center is at 4, -8. I can also see that my major axis is my y-axis, and it's a length of 2. do it kind of up here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so there's my center. And we said that my major axis was my y-axis. So that's my semi-major. And we just said that that had a length of 2. So if that has a length of 2, then I'm going to go up 2 units, plot a point. And then I'm going to go down 2 units and plot another point. They're kind of off a little bit, but maybe that'll look a little bit better. All right. So from there, my minor axis has a semi length of 1. So my A was 2, my B is 1. So again, I can plot those. Okay. So there's my ellipse. So I need to, in order to find my eccentricity, I need to take my E value, or not my E value, my C value, which I actually need to find. And again, remember A squared equals B squared plus C squared. That's going to give me that length to my foci. So 2 squared equals 1 squared plus C squared. So that's going to be 4. 4 minus 1 is going to be the square root of 3. Okay. All right. So given that, I now have my eccentricity is going to be the square root of 3 over my major. So that's going to be 2. So if I actually go and divide that, all right, that's going to give me square root of 3 divided by 2. So I get approximately 0.87. So approximately 0.87 with that ratio. Now, it did ask for some other pieces. It asked for the vertices for the major. So my major, if my center was at 4, -8, that means that my major was on my y-axis. So I'm going to do plus or minus my 2. So given that example, I now have 4 plus 2 is going to be -6. 4 and then the -8 minus 2 is going to give me -10. So those are my 2 majors. So my minor is on my x-axis. So we're going to take the center again. And this time we're going to take it on our minor, which is our x. And we are going to plus or minus my minor value, which is 1. All right, so that's going to give me 5, -8, and 3, -8. All right. So then we have the foci. So the foci working kind of in this situation where it's vertical is going to take a little bit more effort here. Well, not effort, but just kind of looking at it. So visually, to find the foci, we're going to take the length to the center. So that's going to be -8. And we're going to add the C value. So we're going to add on to the C value, and that's going to give me my foci further down. But then we're also going to take away the C value, and the reason we're going to take away the C value is because it's going to bring it back up to that original value. So we're going to add the C to move it to get the foci further down. We're going to subtract the C to get the foci that's further up. All right, so from the center, so again, my center is 4, -8, And because our major is on the y-axis, we are going to plus or minus my c value, and my c value is the square root of 3, and that's going to give us the actual point. So in this particular situation, I have 4 is going to be negative 8 plus the square root of 3, and 4 is going to be negative 8 minus the square root of 3. Alright, so we can actually go back and look at this situation, and we can graph it, and it'll actually graph it for us. So here was our original, and we said 4 minus negative 8 plus the square root of 3. There's that foci at the upper level. And then we have negative 4 minus negative 8 minus the square root of 3. And there's the one at that lower level. And that gives me my 2 foci. So just really paying attention to which one is your major and which one is your minor is going to make the biggest difference when it comes to being able to find the link to the foci and the actual foci point. And I actually think that just a second ago I told you guys incorrectly. I wasn't thinking about the fact that it was negative. So the fact that it was negative, that means that we're going to subtract c down here, because if we're already in the negative and we subtract more, that's going to bring me to that bottom piece, that bottom foci. And then when we had negative 8 and we added c right here, that's what brought me back to the upper one, because of the fact that we were going back into the positive direction. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll try to do my best to answer anything I can.